Hey everybody, welcome to another thing. Today
Yay.
I'm joined by Shay.
Hey guys.
And we're going to be talking about shows that we want Netflix to make. Because they're in the video game business now, it seems. They had Castlevania come out, and that actually turned out to be pretty good. Short, but a good proof of concept. And they're making a Witcher series next, but that's going to be live action. So I thought, why don't we just do shows that we want Netflix to make based on video games? Because movies seem to be not working out at all, really.
Right.
This is actually Shay's brainchild. He came up with it, and then we kind of talked it over and focused it. So I have 5 games I want to make into Netflix series. Shay has 5 games, and I put a stipulation out there. I wanted to have it, these things could have comics and stuff like that, but they couldn't have any other TV shows prior to that. So The Legend of Zelda was out because that had a terrible cartoon. Final Fantasy, even though there's tons of spin-offs, I wanted to negate that because that has had movies and the like. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I would have liked. I would have loved like a Mega Man Legends show, but Mega Man has had so many different things out there. So I just wanted to give it to things that haven't had a chance to be in an anime cartoon, a cartoon in general, or a movie. And Shay, why don't you kick things off, since again this was your little
all right
thing.
So to start things off, people are probably going to notice that my list is pretty heavy on the RPGs, but that's kind of where my favorite things lie. I kind of ran out of ideas. I had like 4 that I really wanted, and then there's the last one. And these aren't in any particular order of what I want, but I'll just start where it started on my list.
You're better than I am. I had 3 that I really liked, and 2 I was just like, yeah, sure, let's do that.
Sure, why not? So Breath of Fire was one of the first games I thought of that I really love as a game, and could translate pretty well depending on which part of the series they take from. If you haven't played Breath of Fire, most Breath of Fires every game is set in a different universe, and it's always about the Dragon Clan in some form or another, and their descendant or their clansman Ryu going off on adventure. You know, the standard RPG fare, and there's stipulations, and there's stable characters that appear in almost every game, like Nina.
Kind of like Final Fantasy. It was pretty much Capcom's attempt at an RPG.
And I think, like most Capcom franchises, it has
died.
Now would be a perfect time for them to do something, because no one's touching Breath of Fire. No one's touched Breath of Fire since 5.
6
I forgot about
out or is coming out, but it's just for phones. So who really cares? 6. Even though they called it Breath of Fire 6, kind of like a middle finger to like everybody. Like, we're making it, but it's gonna be on phones, and I bet it's gonna be free to play, and you got a microtransaction. Who knows? It could be great, but let's just pretend that doesn't exist and pretend this show is the reboot.
Obviously, 1 would be a great thing, just because of the callback, and because who doesn't love a Super Nintendo game? And they're short enough that they could easily be a 6 to 12 episode series. Or if they really wanted to condense it, make it into like a 2-hour movie. I'd like 3 or 4. I think 4 had a little better storyline.
It's the most anime out of all these in terms of like the art style.
But I think most interesting concept that would definitely work the best would be 5. Just because 5 had such an easily break-upable like story.
Yeah, and it's kind of post-apocalyptic in a sense, in terms of like, it was the first Final Fantasy VII of the series where it went kind of tech heavy.
And because that one relies so heavily on the D ratio, with Ryu becoming a dragon, that's how you could break the episodes up, by having the percentiles.
Yeah, this is episode episode 0%, episode 10%, or 5%,
Right.
something like that, you know?
Yeah, it could just be like a random number or have a certain increment.
And
Just
what
because,
do you want this live action or animated?
nah, I want to stay in the art style that Dragon Quarter had. That's it for my first choice.
I think that's a great choice, and I'm going to follow that up with another RPG. Very beloved, but also kind of niche in a way. And I wanted to think about a Nintendo series that should get one. Mario can't really do it because there's been a lot of those.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem actually has had an anime, at least an OVA. Zelda I already teased about, so I thought like, what Nintendo thing could be transformed into a property that hasn't done so already? And then it hit me. I want EarthBound to get an animated series. And I thought about it, and I thought, should it just be like a new Mother? Because, one, fans have wanted Mother 3 to be translated. Two, fans also just kind of want a new Mother game as well. But the director has said, Mother 4 is basically life. So I thought about, why not just do EarthBound, but in a super crazy kind of hilarious kind of anime style. Maybe, because that game is super wacky. I'm thinking like a Fooly Cooly style, but maybe just a little bit toned down in terms of like the wackiness. And just have that be, and just have it be a short series. Because, if you think about it, the game's not that long. And to those that don't know, basically it is the United States as an RPG. Like what Japanese thought of the US at the time. And it's very unique because there's very little Japanese games set in the U.S. And it's kind of like very hometown, Midwest America. You're this young kid and a comet hits and it has this evil invader, essentially. And you're just... a bee tells you to find these magic sound stones, and then you get some party members to help out with that. And your, like, best friend, or kind of... not really your best friend, but a childhood mate, it turns kind of evil in the process, and it's super, super serious at times, but also super wacky. And I think it could do a good clash if it was animated, just like animes can do. Even like the most action-heavy animes like Bleach is full of comedy and also super serious action stuff like that. So, every episode could just be at the beginning and then introducing a new character and some other minor plot things, and then a couple episodes here and there for the sound stones, and eventually you get to the end, and it's going to be super fucked up on the levels of almost, Fooly Cooly and Evangelion. If you've I don't want to spoil it now. You should definitely play EarthBound. But yeah, it gets pretty heavy at the end of that game. Alright, next.
An Etrian Odyssey series. I think Etrian Odyssey would be more easily digested if they took plots from the most recent remakes. If Etrian Untold, The Millennium Girl, or Etrian Untold 2, The Fafnir Knight. Either choice, I think, would be superb, because the storylines in both of them are really good. The characters are amazing, especially in Fafnir Knight. Like, I really enjoy the interactions that the characters have in their little cutscenes. I love that series, and I feel like it could be done very well in, like, Log Horizon or SAO, I guess.
It is a kind of party system. You're creating these characters. These aren't actually story characters. So I think, it would work best if they just kind of created probably these people maybe playing the game. Is that what you're thinking of? Like people getting sucked in, or...
If they want to go that route, they could just take the stories that they did for those Untold games, and I think it would translate well enough.
That's one of the problems with translating an RPG into an anime is you don't want the people in the anime to say, well, I leveled up or something like that. Pokemon is one that doesn't make sense at all because they talk about experience and stuff like that, and Pikachu should be like level 1000 at this point, and yet he can still get kicked, and it's just, it's...
critical hit.
It's super strange. So, I mean, if they make it into like a virtual world, it could work out better, where people could talk about leveling, and the viewer would be like, alright, this makes sense because This is technically they're playing a game. Well, speaking of something that's not a blast from the past, actually a blast from the present, this game is probably not going to get a sequel. I don't know if it's sold well. I know it did not well critically in terms of reviews. I think those reviews are horseshit, and I think it's much better than what the average has given it. And I, of course, am talking about The Order 1886. And my dream would be to have that game be The Order 1887 as a sequel, which, you know, it's only been a couple years. I think that was like 2014 or 2015. So it's not out of the range yet that it could get an actual sequel. But just to make sure, I put it on this list here. And to those unaware, it's basically like a retelling of King Arthur. Essentially, King Arthur, way back in the day, got a hold of like this black liquid that gave him and his men the power to fight these monsters. And the Order, that's what happened. They were called the Order. And throughout time, those traditions have been passed throughout the ages. And everyone, even if, you know, you or I became a member of the Order, we would take someone else's name, whoever died prior to us. So if Lancelot died, you would take his place, and you would become Lancelot and stuff like that. And that's just basically your code. So I thought that was a really cool interpretation. And this takes place in the year 1886. It's about kind of monster hunters, mostly about werewolves. But they do hint at some other kind of ghouls and ghosts out there. And the plot kind of falls apart at certain points. But I love the whole aesthetic of everything and the world building that they did that I don't think people gave it enough credit for. And, you know, it has, like I said, some weak story moments, some weak character moments, but the idea is really cool. That's why I wanted to get a sequel. And I think would work well. I don't know if I would want this to be an anime or a live action show. I think because it's more, obviously, not stylistic, it would work okay as an actual action series if it was given a budget. I don't want a weird sci-fi level of werewolves that they're attacking and stuff like that. But I think, you know, out of all these, I think it would work best probably as live action. Obviously, anime precedes everything because they could do anything they want, obviously, in anime. But because it was like a Western studio, maybe I would vie for live action. And I would say I would actually want it to be right after the first game, and just call it The Order. They don't have to call it 1887. Or, you know what, they could just retell the events and maybe reset things and then eventually get to a sequel of sorts.
Okay, my next game. I was kind of obsessed with this game when I was in high school. Well, my senior year to be specific. I actually started writing my book after playing this because I wanted to immerse myself in a world very similar. So this is like one of those Make-A-Wish kind of dreams, but I'd love to see them make an adaptation of Okage, Shadow King.
Yes, right? Yes, this is, out of all the ones you told me about, this is the one I'm like 100% behind.
Because, I mean, Okage was like, it was like Nightmare Before Christmas meet the most bizarre anime you can think of.
It really is like Tim Burton the RPG.
Yeah, because I remember that was like the selling point when I first started looking at it. I was like, man, this looks like Nightmare Before Christmas. And of course, who wants to play the Nightmare Before Christmas games? I just can't imagine playing those. But something that had a distinct, like, Japanese flair, but that same gothic kind of feel to it.
It's also the same thing of, like, EarthBound, just a super quirky RPG that doesn't get enough love. I tried playing it, and I didn't really get that far. I think it has problems with today, because it was, like, a launch PS2 game. But I can't believe they never gave it another chance, because it's just so unique. And I think this would be the perfect way to, like, revive a weird, super obscure RPG from the launch PS2 era, like 2001, something like that.
I just want a showcase of Ari and Stan. Stan's the Shadow King, and Ari is the character you play as. And I really want at least one episode to be focused on their quirky battle chemistry. Because you had to, you could get Stan to, verbally abuse enemies And they would either give up or they'd give you extra loot or they'd just leave. I loved that.
The closest thing I can think to an equivalent in anime is Soul Eater. When I saw that thing, I was like, wow, this is like if Tim Burton became good again and made an anime.
Yeah.
All right. Next, another thing I'm not sure if I want live action or not, but I wanted to have a mech series on here, and can't do Gundam, because that was originally an anime series. Can't do any of the Xeno games, because technically Xeno SaGa did, and because one had it, I didn't want to make a Xenoblade or anything like that.
Right.
And I was trying to think of some other mech things, and then I came upon something very, very recent. Titanfall. And, you know, I think they could do a really cool live action thing, but I think it would cost a lot of money, and I don't think they would want to, put that much into a project like this to have CG mechs and stuff like that. So, even though it's a Western studio, I think it would work best as an anime. And the first game really didn't have a story. It was all multiplayer, and they kind of threw some scenarios in there as you played it. 2 had a story, but it was a kind of a weaker, typical first-person thing. It does have a cool universe behind it. So I think, if they could just make it be in that universe, not follow any kind of plot lines besides just some lore stuff, I think it would be a great original series and just a cool let's blow stuff up as a mech series, but also follow the traditions of like Gundam and have the ties of war be very loose and have it be in a gray area where there's no clear bad guy, there's no clear good guy, or you could say there's a very clear good guy, but the bad have their reasons too. Don't have a lot to say about this one. Like I said, I just was looking for some mech anime, and this was the first thing that really popped in my mind after I had to negate all those other ones. So go ahead with your number 3.
Okay. Oh,
or
my
4.
Number 4.
4.
All right. So I'm gonna throw my left field one out. The one I thought of today. The Legacy of Kain. Now they could either do strict Legacy of Kain or the Soul Reaver, because both of those series have such great universes, characters. Anything from the Legacy of Kain series would be phenomenal in anime form, because like you said, they can do anything in anime. And I feel like Legacy of Kain hasn't had anything happen in so long that it'd be nice to have a revival.
That's a good choice. The only thing I would say on that, and actually mine that I just thought about right now, is they have Castlevania. So they have a monster slaying show in the gothic sense, and I totally forgot about that for the Order. And, I mean, the Order is werewolves, but Legacy of Kain is straight up vampires. I'm not negating your thing, because obviously...
No, I didn't think of that either.
But this is just 2 people blowing each other's minds at the podcast that we both fucked up.
I didn't think of that either.
Well, at the very least, there's no anime based on that. But yeah.
I don't care who picks it up. It would just be wonderful.
All right. Well, going with Square Enix again, technically. Well, super Square Enix this time. And this is something that I cannot believe has not happened. I've had a dream about watching a trailer for this, or maybe I watched the whole movie in my head. Why hasn't there been a Kingdom Hearts anime or movie?
Considering how that universe feels so disconjointed, I feel like it should have had something at some point.
There is a manga. There's a manga that's gone up to, I think, 358. I don't think there's a Birth by Sleep manga. Yeah. They've already... had a anime style what these things have been based on, and I don't think the mangas are that good because they kind of, congeal things, but I think it would work superbly well as an anime, and if they do it right, get Disney behind it, get
Nomura behind it.
It doesn't even have to be an anime, it could just be straight up a cartoon, like a very pretty cartoon.
Oh man, a multiple season cartoon.
For sure, yeah. I mean, just, cover the events of the first game and
Yeah.
just
And
going through, the backstory with all those characters, and then going through all these Disney worlds, it would be
mhm.
huge. It would be huge. It would be the greatest event ever. I guarantee it.
Right? I would like them to have 2 episode arcs per world. Longer or shorter. 2 would be ideal.
Yeah, for sure.
Have
It definitely should be like one thing because that would just be like super rushed. I don't know if Disney has thought of this and Square Enix turned them down, or Square Enix asked Disney and they turned them down. Of just all the things they've done, all these stupid spin-offs, which there are some
yeah.
good ones, but just the insane ties they've made to keep this series relevant. Why haven't they
Mhm.
just had, been working on Kingdom Hearts 3 this entire time instead of doing all these spin-offs and just done some
Yeah.
animated series instead? It's just insane to me.
It could have some of the most amazing action sequences, but it could also roll in some of that good old emotional tugging shit that Disney loves to throw at you.
Yeah. So yours, what is
So
your number?
I saved this because I talked to you about this so much anyway. Romancing Saga, because the original trilogy was on the Super Nintendo as a spin-off of Final Fantasy, so I was a little afraid after we talked about not including Final Fantasy that maybe I shouldn't include Romancing Saga.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where it's technically a spin-off, but it became its own thing, but it kind of really was never a spin-off. It was localized to be a spin-off, just in the
Yeah.
West. So yeah, it's weird. Just like Final Fantasy Adventure was the Mana series.
If they're going to focus on any of them, they can focus on either of the original 3, because I think there is such an in-depth world. Given the chance, I think a lot of people would come to see just how deep they made that world and how interconnected they had all the characters. Even the minor characters end up playing very big parts in the open-ended world. I did not originally like the series that much. I thought it was very difficult to play, and I didn't like the open scenario system at first because I really wanted something linear. Because playing games up to this point, you're used to doing, well, you do this, you go here, you give them this, then you get your next point. It's very linear. Well, with Romancing Saga, having that great big scape was kind of frightening at first. And obviously, for a series, they're going to have to tone that down. You're going to have specific character story stuff happen, which every character has their certain events. I think as a series, it could potentially be very great.
They could do a Wild Arms type of thing, where maybe a character has an episode or two by themselves, and eventually
Yeah.
halfway through the series they all get together, and that's when the second part of the season gets together, where they're venturing off and getting the quest together, so at least you can get some stuff on the side, and also have some aspects of the original games in there,
Yeah.
where there's like a split off, non-linear kind of story going on.
I think Romancing Saga would be my number one pick because of how much I've fallen in love with it over the last 5 or 6 years.
God, I don't know what the most obscure thing on your list is. That actually has a bunch of...
Okage.
Yes, at least that is only one by itself. But Romance Saga has not a lot. But it's also like kind of one of the failed Square Enix things that's not really talked about. So yeah, definitely
Yeah.
Okage is the most obscure thing on that list.
So
And
there's
I
no
think
way
it would be my top pick for your games to be made into an anime. If you know me,
Right.
I got three top series. You got Final Fantasy, who with every single game is getting lower and lower.
Sorry.
We got Kingdom.
Sorry, FF.
We got Kingdom Hearts, and the number one we have Metal Gear, which is now done because Kojima has left and Konami has. There's a whole history there, but
Right.
they're gonna make this really shitty game, and I just wish they
That
wouldn't.
zombie one?
The zombie one, yeah. And maybe that'll come out, maybe that won't come out. Who knows? But with Castlevania, them not caring about that series, I think this would also be a good Konami thing to make on a series. Give it to somebody else that clearly cares about the franchise, and accept
Right.
that Konami just wants to make shitty pachinko machines. And I want them to basically retell the very original Metal Gear game from the MSX, because it was very, very grounded had some sci-fi stuff in there, or military hybrid things and cyborgs, but it was grounded. There's not much of a story there, and so it could be the super easy to translate and to also kind of pad out and give new directions for, especially since there's been so much retconned in the series, so to fill in those gaps. My dream with Metal Gear Solid 5, which I think, in my heart of hearts, I think Kojima wanted at the end of 5 for it to go right into Metal Gear, is what I theorized for a long time. And that didn't happen, so I think instead of a remake of Metal Gear, I think just an anime of that would be pretty cool. Just, a cool spy anime where it's, it takes place on one base. He goes through the base. Each episode could focus on different people and places he's seen. Could be a very short anime, just like Castlevania. Very quick OVA kind of thing. Or, maybe just short 12-episode kind of thing. Or taking a boss every single episode. Or maybe do a Lost thing where they could focus in on maybe the backstory of some of these people for half the episode. And, maybe the most boring out of all these, because, like I said, one isn't that fantastical in terms of the story. But I would love to see it be made, because there's been a movie of Metal Gear in talks just forever in Hollywood. New scripts are made, and people keep on like, oh yeah, we're gonna make it. And I don't think that would translate well into a movie, really. You'd really have to have super high budget. And whenever an American studio makes something based off of something Japanese, it usually doesn't go that well. So yeah, I think it would work best as an anime. Even though I put that as number one, I think probably actually Kingdom Hearts would be like the most plausible thing on here, because it would fucking do gangbusters. Even if it's bad, it would just be Disney. Disney.
Yeah.
But it would be unfortunate if it's bad. So, yeah, those were our 10 picks. Did you like them? What 10 or what one series would you like to be made into an anime or TV show or movie via Netflix? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you, Shay, for joining me. Thank you all for listening to this really off-the-wall podcast of unprofessionalism, but
unprofessionalism.
Thank you.
Zany ideas.
Thank you anyway, and we'll see you next time. Did you know that was a Reaction Examiner video? If you liked it, you should subscribe to me to keep up with everything that I'm doing. Also, if you have some other interests, like sex for example, check out Tomops, which is a comedy sex podcast thing wherein my best friend and I check out the weird and abnormal and the erotic. And of course, you should support me on Patreon, because hey, I want to make the channel better and I want your help to do so. Plus, if you want to check out my writing, check out Game Jerk, where I have archives and new stuff for all projects, okay? You can find all the stuff and more in the description with the links below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.